Why do people lie? Okay, what's going on there? What's driving why people lie? Well, first of all, we need to realize that there is a difference between instructed lying and voluntary lying. Sometimes people lie because they were told to. Let's say I get a new client, and in the course of the intake, I realize that this new client's, I'll make something up, brother or brother-in-law is also a client. And I conceal that. Okay, now if I'm concealing it, but I've been instructed by an ethics board that in this case, the concealment is the right thing to do because I can't expose another client. I can't risk or give up their anonymity. So there's instructed lying and there's voluntary lying. This is really important to understand the difference here when you get into the research on deception. Because if you get into all the neuroscientific research on deception, what you're going to see is that experiments that are run where the participants are told to lie at certain points have very different results than an experiment that is designed where participants voluntarily lie, not knowing that we're watching for whether they're lying. That is interesting, because it tells us there are two very different processes in the brain between instructed lying and voluntary lying. There's a difference. And so if there's a difference in the brain, it's safe to assume there's a difference in motivation. One is lying because they're being told to for some reason. There could be a lot of reasons why, right? Oh, I'm doing it for science if I'm a participant in an fMRI study, or I'm doing it for a higher ethical principle. I've got to protect the anonymity of another client, for example. So that's one reason. Versus voluntary lying, I'm lying because I'm choosing to lie. That's different. Now, when we get to that place of voluntary lying, now there's two questions. Is it based on self-interest or other interest? Again, very interesting. In the neurobiological research, there's a difference in what happens in the brain between when I tell a lie based on self-interest, I'm doing it to protect myself, versus other interest, I'm doing it to protect someone else. About Rahab lying to save the spies, right? We could also bring up the, I can't remember their names, but in Exodus chapter 2, there's the Hebrew midwives who are told, right, to kill all the Hebrew babies, and they lie, and God blesses them because they actually end up protecting the babies, right? And then Moses is born. That was not a lie of self-interest. It was other interest, and apparently it's processed in the brain in an entirely different way. What this boils down to, though, and when it comes to self-interest, so we're kind of funneling. So there's instructed lying, voluntary lying. We're going to focus on voluntary lying. With voluntary lying, there's a difference between self-interest and other interest motivation. We're going to focus on self-interest motivation. And here, what the deal is, is that telling the truth can be painful. You could also fill in the blank there with scary. At the end of the day, there are a lot of different reasons, but when it comes to voluntary lies based on the motivation of self-interest, in some form or another, almost all the time, it's about avoiding